Let us take a look at the development of the skin, the development of the integumentary system. Right. So understand this: the human skin is the largest organ in the body, which occupies about 16% of the total body weight. Just imagine. It forms the external surface of the body, and it has several important functions. One of them include protection. The skin is a protecting organ because it has melanocytes that produce melanin, and it is the melanin that prevent the human skin to be exposed to ultraviolet radiation. Skin is also important for sensation. So you have nerve endings that are inside your skin that are very sensitive to touch, temperature, and pressure. There is also another term that is called thermoregulation. So you understand that the skin, the dermis of the skin, is going to have what we call sweat glands. And it is from these sweat glands you um, are able to regulate temperature and some metabolic activities as well. Right. So the color of the skin and the thickness of the skin, it depends on the location and the function of that position. So you can find that skin um, skin is divided into two. You have a thick skin and thin skin. So thick skin is gonna be in two places: your palms of the hand and the soles of your feet. And take note of this: thick skin has no hair. Has no hair. You understand? And then we are going to have thin skin. Thin skin is hairy and almost everywhere. But if you even look at this thin skin, it also differs depending on the function and the location. For example, the thick skin that's around your elbow, the thin skin that is around your elbow is thicker than the skin that surrounds the dorsum of your hand, right? So something like that. Right, so you're going to understand that the skin is divided into two. You have the epidermis and the dermis, right? That's the integumentary system. And then below the dermis, you're going to have the hypodermis, which is not part of the integumentary system. So the epidermis, right? So let's talk about the epidermis for a second. Right. So you're going to see that the epidermis develops from the surface ectoderm. So it is the surface ectoderm right here that is going to form the epidermis. Right. So it's around uh, second month, the surface of the ectoderm is going to be lined by a flat layer of cells called the periderm or the epitracheum. Right. And then below it, you're going to have cuboidal cells, right? That are going to be your stem cell for the formation of the skin. Right. And at around the first trimester, which is the three, the third month, you're gonna now see the skin differentiating and dividing into five layers. Five layers. So let's take a look at these layers. So this is your surface ectoderm. It forms the periderm. Then the layer between the periderm and this surface ectoderm will be fused will be separated by an intermediate layer, and it is the intermediate layer that will later divide into um, these layers of the epidermis. So we are going to have this that is called the stratum basale or the basal layer. This is a stem cell. This is where the stem cells of the skin are found, and it is mitotically active. Is the one that is going to uh, mitotically divide and form these all layers. So you have the stratum basale, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum. And take note, the stratum lucidum is only present in thick skin. You cannot see it in thin skin. And then you have the horny layer or the stratum corneum. So let's just take a look at this before we get deep into it. And right in this stratum basale, you're going to find cells that are called melanocytes. These melanocyte cells, they are the ones that we have the granules or the melanosomes that we have melanin. And take note, the melanocytes, they come from urocrest cells. They are derived from urocrest cells, these cells. So let's take a look at these layers for a moment. Right, so the stratum basale is can be also be said to be the stratum germinativum, but it's not the same. We are going to talk about it when we get into actual histology of the skin. But what you need to understand is it is a layer with the stem cell, right? And this layer is either columnar or cuboidal, right? And these cells, they are sitting on the basal lamina by these hemidesmosomes, and they're sitting at either side by these desmosomes, right? Attached to other cells by the desmosomes, right? So it is mitotically active. Mitotically active. That's a point that you shouldn't forget. And then from that, you're going to have the spinosum. So the spinosum is also called the spiny layer. Why? Because it's going to be formed by polygonal or cuboidal cells that have central nucleus but surrounded with the tonal filament together with desmosomes. So when you see it histologically, if you're going to look at it, it's going to have spikes. You understand? And it maintains the cohesion and resist abrasion forces in all directions. And then the stratum granulosum. The stratum granulosum just a small layer, right? That is 3 to 5 layers of flat polygonal cells, which are basophilic. If you're gonna look at them histologically, right? And then it's gonna have a matrix that is gonna have laminar granules that discharge into the intercell space, right? And they prevent the, the this layer is responsible for the waterproofness of the skin, and it also prevents the entrance of foreign materials. And then we are going to have another layer, which is the fourth layer, the stratum lucidum. The stratum lucidum, like I said, it is only present in the lips and the thin, thick skin. It is absent and not distinct in the thin skin, right? And this one, it has no organelles. The cells are now dying because they're now forming the horny layer. They no longer have all those major organelles, even the nucleus starts to shrink and so forth. Right. The last one is going to be your stratum corneum. The stratum corneum is it is filled with the dead cells that are non-nucleated keratinized cells, right? And these cells, they contain fibular, amorphous proteins, and a thickened membrane, which is called the horny cell. You understand? So in thin skin, You have the granulosum plus the lucidum less developed, and the corneum may be quite thin, but it is opposite in the thick skin. The granulosum and the lucidum is well developed, and the corneum is very thick. Right. So I guess we are done. Melanocytes are derived from neurotrophil cells. Never forget that. So as you can see right here, you're going to have at the junction, at the diagonal, at the dermal epidermal junction, you're going to have what you call epidermal papilla that forms stem. Right. So a layer of the epidermis that will invaginate the dermis is going to form what you call epidermal ridges. Then a layer of the dermis that will invaginate the epidermis is going to form what you call dermal papilla. And it is these pegs and ridges that are going to be responsible for the formation of fingerprints in human. And they are very important in what you call dermatoglyphics, which is the study of fingerprints and so forth. So you can actually see these are the dermal papillae, and these are the dermal epidermal ridges that can be used in dermatoglyphics. Now let us take a look at the dermis. We are done with the epidermis. The dermis develops from mesenchyme. Understand this. There's a difference between mesoderm and mesenchyme. So mesenchyme, these are cells of the embryo or the fetus that can actually form everything of the body, any cell of the body, right? And the mesenchymal cells does not mean they come only from the mesoderm. They come from the combination of the ectoderm, mesoderm, even endoderm. So they are not just coming from the mesoderm. You understand? Right. So the dermis develop from the mesenchyme. Why? Because the dermis of the back comes from the paraaxial mesoderm. And histologically, it is the thickest dermis of the body is the dermis of the back, which is about 4 millimeters thick, and it comes from the paraaxial mesoderm. And then the dermis of the body wall, which is the dermis of the limbs, the dermis of the abdomen, anterior chest wall, it all comes from the lateral plate mesoderm. The lateral plate mesoderm. Understand? Good. And then the dermis of the head and neck is going to come from the neural crusty cells. So I remember there was an MCQ that said, and understand this, it is from the dermis where we have what you call angiogenesis, which is the formation of blood vessels. So angiogenesis of capillaries of the dermis is completed by the facet fragmentation. Right. That's where you have the completion of the angiogenesis. And it is formed by the mesenchyme of the dermis. So true or false, capillaries of the head and neck dermis come from the ectoderm. What do you think? That is true because neurocrusty cells are ectodermal origin. So even the capillaries that are going to be formed in the dermis of the head and neck, they are going to come from the ectoderm. Good. Now let's go through some, but I'll later go through some clinical correlates later. But let's now take a look at the glands of the skin. So the skin is going to have two main glands, two types, the sebaceous glands and the sweat glands, which are all derived from the epidermis and they grow into the dermis. These glands are derived from the epidermis, but they grow towards the dermis. You understand? The sebaceous gland and the sweat glands. So right here we have the formation of the sebaceous glands. They are associated with the formation of the hair follicle. The hair follicle. So you're gonna look. This is the epidermis with the stratum genitivum. We are going to have cells proliferating from the epidermis, invaginating the dermis, right? And within these cells, you're going to have a bud that's going to form, which is a bud for the sebaceous gland, right? It's going to come from the epithelial root sheath of the hair follicle. And then this bud will later form the hair bud, right? The hair bud that will later form the hair root and the hair shaft, right? So you can actually now see this is the primordium of the sebaceous gland, and you can actually now see the germinal matrix, right, of the hair follicle with its dermal papilla. This is the dermal papilla, right, which is going to be very important for supplying blood to your hair, to your growing hair follicle, right? So take note of this. The sebaceous gland develops from the epithelial root sheath of the hair follicle, right? And it does not always empty into hair follicle. Most of the time, the the this gland it empties itself into the hair follicle most of the time, but it's not always, right? So you have areas where the sebaceous gland are found where there is absence of hair. For example, your lips, your glans penis, your clitoris, and the labia minora. So these areas, the sebaceous gland just uh, drain, right, without associated with the hair follicle. Now let us take a look at the formation of the sweat glands. The sweat glands, the development of the sweat glands. I want also to take you to take note of this that the sebaceous gland they start to secrete in utero. NB. Sebaceous gland started to secrete in utero. So you're going to have the sebaceous gland, right? Remember we said we have these cells of the peridium. So the peridium cells they'll undergo what you call um, keratinization by desquamation. So which means they are going to lose these peridium cells. They are going to lose attachment to the skin, right? That's a desquamation. So it this happens during the second part of the intrauterine life, right? And you have the sebaceous gland now secreting sebum, right? The sebaceous gland secreting sebum, and the sebaceous gland oil, which is the sebum, plus the detached peridium, is gonna form what you call the vernix caseosa. The vernix caseosa. So the vernix caseosa It's going to be a layer surrounding your skin that is going to protect the skin from the corrosive nature of the amniotic fluid. So it protects the developing fetal skin from constant exposure to amniotic fluid with its high urine content and corrosive ability. You understand? So NB, sebaceous gland, develops before birth and they function before birth. Let's take a look finally at the sweat glands. The sweat glands are divided into two, and they all develop from the epidermis. So you have proliferation of the epiderma of especially of the short-term geminitiva. They proliferate invaginating the dermis like this, and then they continue to grow and they will form a sweat duct. And then at the end of this sweat duct, you're going to have a coiling of the cells forming the parenchyma, which are the sweat glands. Right. So take note of this. The sweat glands are divided into you have the eccrine sweat glands and the apocrine sweat glands. So what is important is to take note of these sweat glands, right? So this is an eccrine sweat gland because it coils at the end, right? And you're also going to have some differentiation of the dermal cells forming what you call myoepithelial cells that are going to be very essential in the secretion of sweat. Right, let's take a look at this eccrine sweat. They develop from the downward proliferation of the stratum geminitivum into the dermis, as you can see, and they start to function after birth. They start to function after birth, not before birth, right? Let's take a look at the eccrine. All right. So the eccrine they develop from the epidermis as well, right? And this one they are found in limited places. The apocrine glands are found in the axilla, in the pubic, and the perineal regions, and they develop from the same epidermal bud, right? That form the hair follicle. So they are mainly associated with the hair follicle, right? And they open into the hair follicle instead of directly into the skin. So that's the main difference. The these eccrine or merocrine sweat glands they just open into the skin, but the apocrine they open specifically into the hair follicle. And take note, the apocrine glands they will start to develop at puberty, while the merocrine or the eccrine gland they start to develop before puberty, just after birth. You understand now? So let's take a look at the difference between the apocrine and the eccrine. Right. So first of all, we said the eccrine sweat glands are found over most parts of the body, while the apocrine sweat glands are confined to the axilla, the pubic, and the perineal region, and also to the areola of the nipples of the breast. Right. What about development? The eccrine sweat glands they develop before they develop just they develop before birth, right? And they start to function after birth, right? As for the apocrine, they develop and start to function at puberty. The eccrine glands also, we said that they would drain directly on the surface of the epithelium. But as for the apocrine, they drain uh, themselves into the hair follicle, right? Good. And then the type of secretion. So the sweat glands, they secrete watery and sort of like serous secretion, right? Water secretion, which is involved in thermoregulation. But as for the apocrine, they secrete protein-rich secretion that is pheromones, which are odor, which are involved in sexual attraction, right? So these are key features that you need to understand when it comes to apocrine and eccrine sweat glands. Now, let us take a look at the development of the mammary gland. Take note of this. The mammary gland is a modified sweat gland. The mammary gland is a modified sweat gland. It develops uh, from the ectoderm, which is the epidermis, right? Is a downward proliferation of the ectodermal cells, and these cells they will differentiate into what you call epithelial cords, right? There will be 15 to 20 epithelial cords, which are going to be separated by the dermal tissue, as you can see. And these cords, they are going to be catalyzed to form what called lactiferous duct. So as we know, we have 15 to 20 lactiferous duct in a single breast, right? And then after that, you're going to have these lactiferous duct, they are going to be opening into the nipple, right? And then at the caudal limit, or at the end of this lactiferous duct, you now have the formation of the primordial of the alveoli. You understand now? So we have what you call a mammary ridge that extends from the axilla to the groin, and it is along this ridge where you have position of the accessory nipples along the it can also be called the milk line, right? So in human, you only have in a normal case, you only have the progression of the nipple of the what of around the chest wall, right? Is going to persist, and all the nipples along this mammary line are going to regress. Failure of recreation of this nipple will lead to supramammary nipples. You understand? Uh-huh. So the full development of the breast occurs at about 19 years of age. So once you're at the year 19, that's where you have full development of what? Of the breast. You understand this, right? Good. Right. It is important also to understand, since we say the skin has sensory function, you also have some cells, some mesenchymal cells differentiating, forming nerve endings, and forming some um, nerve sensitive uh, cells. For example, the Pacinian corpuscle, the Cruz, and the Meissner corpuscles. These are all sensitive to pain, temperature, and touch. Right, so as you can now see, this will become your skin, where you have your epidermis with these dermal pegs, right? And then here you're going to have your dermis, right? And then the dermis, that's where you have your root hair, hair follicle, your sebaceous gland, You have your sweat glands, right? Good. And then if it is the axilla, you'll be having your apocrine glands, right? So let's take a look at some clinical correlates. Let's start with albinism. Right. Albinism is just a condition which is due to decreased pigmentation in the skin, hair, and eyes. So it occurs due to abnormal synthesis of melanin by melanocytes. That's albinism. Then vitiligo is characterized by loss of pigmentation due to loss of skin and hair color. This this is now due to what you call autoimmune disorder, where you have a loss of melanocytes due to autoimmune disease. That's vitiligo, right? And then some of these ones, they are more, we're gonna see as we're gonna get into histology, right? The Addison, the 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 Balas pemphigoid, all these, even the cancer, the carcinoma, and so forth. We're gonna talk about it in the histology section of the skin, right? So that's all that I have today. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.